Hello project manager, glad to see you here. As you may know, most project managers don't have formal education. Instead, they must Google how to run a project on the internet. That's why on this channel I share practical tips on IT project management that work in the real world. It all comes from my 11 years of hands-on experience. My goal is to help you finish your projects on time and within budget. And today we'll talk about how to fix the scope creep on your project. But first of all, what is scope creep? Scope creep is a change in the initial scope of work. In other words, it's an increase of work that you and your team need to do to finish the project successfully. And scope creep happens on all projects to some extent. But when you lose control of it, you delay your project and additional work starts to require more and more budget. As a result, project owners and your boss get frustrated and they start to micromanage you. There are many root causes of scope creep. So, for example, project owners want to add new features to the product, or you misidentifying a deliverable in the first place. Project owners may wish to adjust requirements after seeing the product you created. Also, there might be a miscommunication about what is not in the project scope, or you misjudge the complexity of requirements or the impact of a change. So as you can see, scope creep may come from project owners, from your side, or even from things that are not under your control. But in all cases, you want to achieve the following. Whenever there is a change in scope, you want to reserve the right to change the project's timeline and budget. So pause here and think about it for a second. Many tools can help you control scope creep in the real world. So let me explain you how they work and when to use each one of them. So the first line of your defense is a project charter. A project charter is a document you create at the start of a project. It contains high-level information about this project, and in essence, it sets goals and boundaries for the project. By the way, you don't need to have a formal document, but you do want to collect information that a project charter contains. Moreover, you want to ensure that project owners see this information in the same way. In terms of scope creep, you are most interested in the business case of the project. And the idea here is very simple. Whenever there is a need to make a change in scope, you should check whether this change is aligned with the business case. Moreover, does this change help us to reach the project's objectives? If yes, we can negotiate the change in the project's timeline and budget to incorporate this additional work. However, if the business case doesn't support the change of scope, you should reject this change right away. So, for example, a project's business case is to quickly fix several defects in our product and release a new version. Users are complaining a lot and requesting refunds. We are losing money right now. At the same time, the CTO of the company comes and requests that we have to add a technical feature to this release. It will help us discover and fix defects much faster. Well, while this additional feature is useful, we should reject it, because it doesn't align with our main business case. Nevertheless, it's a great candidate for the next project. So project charter and business case are your first filter. However, it's a very high-level filter to focus project owners on their own business objective. Okay, in the description I'll leave you a link to a video that explains all aspects of project charter. Okay, almost at the same level we have another tool that helps you control the boundaries of your project. After creating a project charter, you start collecting requirements. You'll come up with a project life cycle and you'll learn the best practices of your industry. So in essence, you will gain a better understanding of what you need to produce as the result of your project. And at this point in project management, you should be able to describe main deliverables of this project. And a deliverable is a tangible and verifiable piece of a project that you must create to reach the project's objectives. So now you need to describe all the project deliverables in a project scope statement. The key here is to share your improved understanding of the project with other stakeholders. Additionally, you need to capture several more pieces of information in the scope statement. But again, it's a more detailed description of what you had in the project charter at the beginning. Nevertheless, once you show the project scope statement to the project owners and they accept it, you have an agreement not to change the project scope without negotiations. So, for example, you develop a software application, but in the scope statement you don't have a PDF quick start guide. Or even better, you put it into the exclusion section of the statement. Now, if the project owners come to you and ask where the quick start guide PDF is and who is working on it, you can point to the scope statement and say that it's not in the project scope. But again, it's not a super detailed document. The scope statement describes only the main deliverables of the project. And by the way, I have a dedicated video as well. The link is in the description. On the second level, we have two tools that work hand in hand to help you keep scope creep at bay. So we have an understanding of what our deliverables are. Now we need requirements describing all the features, capabilities and look and feel of those deliverables. In the real world, we have been collecting requirements all the time until this moment. You do it in parallel with all other project management activities. Nevertheless, you want to connect all the requirements together with the business objectives from the project chart. So here you need to understand that you can create one and the same deliverable with different sets of features and capabilities. You see, not every smartphone should be an iPhone. So you must ensure that all these features pursue the project's business objectives in the first place. That's why we have a requirements traceability matrix. It's the tool that helps you control scope creep on the requirements level. It will help you eliminate or scale down requirements to the required level of the business needs. It will also help you to build a case not to include some change requests further down the road if you cannot match them to a business objective. And later, you also want to connect requirements with deliverables, because you want to know in what tangible and verifiable piece of the project you can test a given requirement or a feature. What's even more important, you want to ensure that you don't forget to capture some work you need to perform to implement a specific piece of requirement. There are many other ways to leverage the requirements traceability matrix on a project. That's why I do recommend that you watch my whole video on this tool. Again, the link is in the description. Okay, now we have requirements and big deliverables describing the project's desired outcome. However, all of these are not yet suitable for project management purposes. So we need to break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. So that's where we want to create a work breakdown structure, WBS. In simple terms, a WBS is a tool that helps you decompose your large deliverables into smaller pieces. But of course, it's a huge topic in itself, so I'll also leave you a link in the description to a dedicated video on WBS. But for now, the idea is that you need to break the project into smaller pieces. And this set of pieces becomes your baseline to control the project scope. So if you notice that a new piece of work appeared during execution, that's a scope creep. In most cases, you'll need to analyze this new piece of work and make a decision if you want to adjust other deliverables to include this work as well. Because if one deliverable has this work, there is a good chance that other deliverables may have it as well. I want you to pause now for a second and notice that most of the activities and tools I described so far are from projects planning phase. So it means that you must think about controlling project scope and avoiding scope creep right from the beginning of a project. You see, if you don't lay this foundation of tools and documents, you can use only the remaining third level to control the project scope. And again, the idea is similar. You need to break down the project into smaller pieces. Then you need to break these pieces into tasks and activities. So now you need to ensure that you identify all the tasks required to create one such piece of the project. So, as I said, if you don't have other measures, you can control the project scope only by ensuring that no new tasks appear during the execution. So, for example, in the real world, it looks like this. You ask your team member, "Hey John, did you document the workflow?" And John says, "Oh, I didn't know I needed to do that. It'll take an extra day. I'll create a new task." And suddenly you realize, wait, we have 17 similar deliverables. All of them require a documented workflow. Does it mean we'll require 17 additional working days? That's the real life. As you might have noticed, all these tools to control the project scope are connected with each other. But what's more important is that they are connected with many other project management tools in other areas. So if you want to be a great project manager, you need to know and understand all the aspects of project management and how they work as a system. That's why I recommend you watch my full tutorial on project management next. It will explain all aspects of project management and how they work in the real world. Please click on the video now because I'm actually waiting for you there to continue this knowledge sharing.